AME's interest in this tape is to briefly illustrate by video a tour of world-class manufacturing in America.
We have plenty of role models. You don't have to go to Japan like you might have 10 years ago. You could make a tour of leading U.S. companies today, and I can tell you come away with a rich set of ideas, all you need to learn how to win in the marketplace.
We'll begin our journey on the road to manufacturing excellence at Motorola, near Chicago, and we'll see their cellular telephone manufacturing facility.
We have a basis for genuine excitement about how our processes are making us competitive because we have smart new ways of doing things.
And we'll visit Allen Bradley in Milwaukee, where we'll see world-class automated manufacturing.
We started with an idea to go after more of the global market, and we ended up with the plant. And the plant is a result of the fact we couldn't manufacture at a low enough cost any other way.
In Rochester, New York, we'll see how Team Xerox used competitive benchmarking as part of its successful strategy to win back market share it had lost to foreign competition.
We developed xerography. We thought that we were the center of wisdom in the world for xerography, and it was hard for us to believe that looking anywhere else could give us insight into how to do something better than we were doing it ourselves.
And we'll visit Roseville, California, where a group of people called the Frontier Team revolutionized Hewlett-Packard's computer terminal manufacturing.
There's no magic. You don't have to be a Superman. There aren't things beyond your scope or control that are required. It's perfectly doable. Now, that's the good news. Now, the bad news is that even given that whole thing, it is not easy.
Cellular telephones have become commonplace in America's cars, but the story behind the spiral antenna is the battle for cellular telephone market share. At one time, Japanese manufacturers flooded the U.S. with phones priced below fair value in an effort to corner the market. Motorola, a pioneer in the industry and the leading American manufacturer of cellular phones, saw its business threatened by 24 offshore competitors. To executives like Director of Manufacturing Dan Shabilsky, the key to being competitive had to come from manufacturing, reducing cost while improving quality, and doing it quickly.
It was not a situation to where we had choices. In order to initially survive and to win in this particular marketplace, we had to change traditional mindsets. We had to understand that a slow progression of improvement was no longer acceptable. Traditional methods of solving problems were no longer acceptable. We had to reach into whatever creative pools that we had to solve particular problems and to accomplish the mission that we had. In the competitive marketplace, what we wanted to do is to have a product that had less parts for higher reliability, certainly one that would be easier to manufacture. We started on a program to redesign the radio on my left and to come up with the Mini-Tac radio, which I have on my right.
Traditionally, the way American business got a new product manufactured resembled an assembly line. A product design team did its work alone and tossed the design over the transom to the manufacturing operations team, whose job was to create a manufacturing process for that design. The purchasing people were told what parts were needed, and their job was to find the lowest cost suppliers. This system worked, but a lot of opportunities for reducing cost and increasing efficiency were missed because the players on this team didn't really talk to one another. By bringing them together as a team early in the design process, Motorola opened the door to design for manufacturability.
Okay, team, any ideas on how to improve on this design?
Well, if we change the design so we could build it from the bottom up, we could automate part of the line, get better consistency, and improve quality.
And these plans call for 5 different kinds of screws. If we choose one screw to fill all 5 functions, we reduce parts count and get a better price.
And let me show you another place you can save. If you adjust the tolerances just a bit in 2 places, I can use much less expensive materials in the components I supply.
Thus, the product and the manufacturing process were designed together. Motorola design engineers built their own prototypes and stayed with the product through the initial production runs. They call it living their designs. For the company founded by Paul Galvin in 1928, changes like these are a continuing process of renewal. Current Chairman Bob Galvin, son of the founding father, sees renewal as part of a commitment to total customer satisfaction.
We have a basis for genuine excitement about how our processes are making us competitive because we have smart new ways of doing things.
The result of Motorola's efforts is a cellular telephone that is 1/3 the size of Motorola's previous model, 1/3 the weight, 1/3 the number of component parts, 3 times as reliable in the field, and it's built in hours where the previous model took weeks to build. Several factors contribute to achieving that kind of change. Educating employees plays a large role.
What we have done is entrusted them with the success of the line. We have enhanced their problem-solving capabilities, and as such, the commitment that they have assumed has allowed us to be very, very successful.
Another factor enhancing efficiency is that offices for Motorola's technical operations people are right on the manufacturing floor, where the action is.
It allows me to spend a lot of time on the factory floor, and when problems do arise, I can very quickly be there and determine what's the cause and help prevent it in the future.
Response to the problems in a short cycle time type of a situation does not create a time frame where memos are generated defining the problem in a very explicit way. Response is absolutely critical. So therefore, the communications level is heightened in the manufacturing floor, identifying the problem, which in most cases is 50% of the solution, and then responding to it.
As line employees have been given greater responsibility, layers of management have been streamlined from 7 down to 3. The scope of change includes the other manufacturers whose products go into Motorola's. Major changes have come in practices and attitudes. One of the major changes that's taken place in the way Motorola does business is in its relationship with suppliers. Suppliers are now viewed as partners, and that change has come straight from the top.
I knew that there was more intelligence out there than we were willing to yet bring to bear in our own self-interest.
Bob Galvin suggests that Motorola and its suppliers are actually stakeholders in each other's destiny.
Well, we absolutely need our suppliers to be world-class in their total service to us, and we can't get that without giving them the proper respect and encouragement.
If partnership with suppliers is sharing destiny, Motorola doesn't share its destiny as widely as it once did. Its number of suppliers has been cut to a more manageable level. Omni Circuits is one of Motorola's certified suppliers. Certified suppliers have to meet strict requirements on quality, delivery, and price, but they're rewarded with a much larger share of Motorola's business. It's a big responsibility. The cellular telephone manufacturing facility doesn't want the expense of keeping an inventory of these printed circuit boards. Motorola wants them delivered just in time to go on its manufacturing line. So Omni's ability to deliver just in time is critical. If the flow stops from Omni, the line stops at Motorola. And Motorola expects the same levels of quality in these boards from Omni that it promises its customers for Motorola cellular phones.
Well, I'm certified on a part and it goes to the line and it bombs, I'm dead. I really committed a mortal sin at that one, and I can't afford to do that. So it must be quality and it must be checked and followed.
And the onus is on you to do that.
That's my job, yes. It used to be that I used to build something and then they sorted it out and told me if it was good enough, and then they made something and their customer told them if it was good enough. Well, the whole world has changed now.
To make sure it gets the best components, Motorola shares its manufacturing expertise with suppliers. That can be helping a supplier implement statistical process control or sending a Motorola expert to troubleshoot a supplier's problem. Suppliers like Jim Schwartz and his people attend training seminars at Motorola's Galvin Center for Continuing Education.
I think Motorola did an extraordinarily brilliant thing when they opened up schooling and training to their suppliers, because the only way Motorola can make a better product is to have better materials go into it. And that's just what they decided to do, was to go back and make their suppliers better so that they would have a better mousetrap to sell to the public. And they've done that, and they've done that extremely well.
This supplier's business is prospering and growing a lot because Jim Schwartz knows that as long as Omni Circuits continues to meet Motorola's requirements for quality components delivered just in time at a reasonable price, he'll have more than enough orders to justify expansion. This little phone carries a big message about non-traditional thinking, about how business relates to employees and suppliers, and about manufacturing excellence in America.
Our products are exported to the Far East, to European communities, as well as to South American communication users. They're all built in the United States. They very proudly wear the Made in the U.S. label and exemplify the highest level of quality in a communications product and the best return on an investment in a cellular radio telephone.
This may look like a basketball floor, but it's a manufacturing floor. The world-class contactor automated assembly facility, where Alan Bradley chose to get into a world-class game with a home court advantage. What Alan Bradley is making here is not an item the average consumer would recognize. Put simply, this contactor controls current to the starter on machinery motors. There are two standards for contactors, NEMA and IEC. When IEC became common, Alan Bradley decided to add IEC-rated contactors to its line of product offerings. After the strategic decision to enter that market was made, the question was how to do it. Alan Bradley's conclusion: this kind of fully automated assembly facility was the only way Alan Bradley could get in the game with a competitively priced product. Although Alan Bradley is a manufacturer of automation control hardware, building this was still a challenge.
We were quite confident as far as the machinery went. We felt, for instance, in the hard automation portions of it that we could handle that quite well. We had never put in a tightly integrated information system, whether it was the order entry portion of it, whether it was the quality portion, the maintenance, engineering kind of information that was required to run this thing essentially without people at all times. So the risk, if there was one, was putting an information system on top of a manufacturing environment and tightly coupling that together.
In this game, statistical process control is the scorekeeper. At 3,500 points along the line, the computer-integrated manufacturing system compares the performance of each unit to a statistical norm.
This product itself is being statistically monitored for all of its electrical characteristics. So if we see a potential problem occurring, we can correct it long before we have a reject, and rejects cost money. So therefore, by the use of statistics, we have reduced the cost of quality substantially.
The officials in the game are a handful of equipment attendants on duty to troubleshoot problems and keep the assembly equipment loaded with components. But, at least in theory, this facility does not require people. That's an issue that had to be addressed in a plant that's been unionized for decades.
We went to the leadership of the union and said, we can put this plant anywhere. We would rather put it here because the engineers who will be working on the product and working on the process are here. But the commitment we need from you is that not only will you cooperate on the fact we're going to have this type of factory in the plant, we need a commitment from you that there will be no negativism from the union about the plant. I think they came to a very enlightened conclusion that said, we'd like the plant to be here, we'd like to be part of modern kind of manufacturing, and we'd like to have those jobs, even though there will be fewer of them than maybe in the other type of manufacturing.
The cellular design of this focused factory, with all functions in close proximity to one another, facilitates teamwork.
So we'll take Mary Lou on the floor, who's operating a certain group of machines, and when Bruce from the mold cell brings out the parts, if those parts aren't 100% good parts, Mary Lou is right on his case and telling him, look, you better provide me with a better part than this. And it works extremely well. In the old means of fabrication, the fabrication was done in another department, another floor, separate, and sometimes another facility outside of these walls. And the individual certainly was concerned about quality, but he didn't have the direct relationship with the people that were using that end product. He never saw where the product was used.
Here, quality is everything. Even an imperfect silk screening that has no impact on the unit's performance made this a reject. Allen Bradley has a corporate philosophy of total quality management.
Any defect, whether it's information or whether it's product or whether it's equipment, costs money. In order for this type of factory to work, it has to come as close to having 0 defects of all types as you can possibly get. So the designs of the product, the designs of the equipment, and the designs of the systems had to take that in consideration. That plant has the lowest level of defects of all sorts of anything that we operate. Otherwise, it simply wouldn't work very well. And it does work extremely well.
In fact, this facility has become a showplace of Allen Bradley factory automation. Tour groups come through regularly. Suppliers are invited too. Suppliers, like employees, benefit when they see how their part of the process fits into the big picture.
John, one of the things that I note here in watching this assembly is how important it is for us to provide you with parts that are right each and every time. There is no room for error on the part of our delivery or on the part of the quality that we provide to you.
This plant uses just-in-time deliveries from suppliers to produce orders as they are received, in lot sizes as small as 1. The flexibility of the computer-integrated manufacturing system has exceeded expectations. It was designed for 125 different product configurations. Customer demands have led to nearly 800 variations. This kind of facility represents a major, long-term investment in manufacturing excellence, but it has put Allen Bradley in the big leagues. Automated assembly gives Allen Bradley a 60% cost advantage over hand assembly, and this factory is still operating at only 40% of capacity.
The combination of being able to reduce the inventory very significantly, almost to 0, the ability to have extraordinarily high yields off the end of the line, first pass yields, and the ability to have information that allows us to have uptime that is significantly higher than most manufacturing environments would ever see. Put those all together, and then you run it through a normal return on investment analysis or whatever, and it's a superstar.
The 1960s were the golden years for Xerox. The company's 914 copier came to be called the most successful product introduction in U.S. business history. Xerox was one of America's darling companies.
Thank you, Debbie. That was fast. Which is the original?
I forget it.
Today, Xerox is climbing back to the peak of customer satisfaction polls. But the years between the 1960s and today have not all been easy.
We had been attacked viciously by the Japanese, beginning in 1976, I think. We had lost close to 40 points of market share by 1982. Our profits in 1981 went from $1,149 million as a corporation to a little over $600 million. And that was enough, I think, to capture an awful lot of attention.
Xerox took a long, hard look at itself and saw that it was a victim of its own success.
We felt very good about ourselves. We were proud of our product. We were proud of the name of the company. We were proud of the reputation that we'd built. And I think we felt perhaps a little too good about what we were. I think during that period of time, we lost our focus on the customers. We developed almost an internal arrogance that kept us from really focusing on what our customers wanted.
Sensing that weakness, Japanese competitors introduced lines of low-priced copiers, serving a market segment that Xerox had ignored. Gradually, but steadily, Japanese competitors took market share away from the company that prided itself on having made the world's very first Xerox copy. By the late 70s, it became clear that the Japanese could sell a copier for what it cost Xerox to build one.
Inside of this company, we were forced to make radical change. I think first thing was an awareness of a need, and it started with the management team of the company. We had to get our own mind around the need to change.
37-year company veteran Ed Finan says it wasn't hard to find things that needed change.
We were organized generally functionally, and the functional groups battled each other rather than working in concert to get things done. And everybody was doing well, and yet we were clearly going down the tubes as a company because every function was doing well, but the company and our customers were not doing very well.
Xerox begrudgingly set out to learn how it was being beaten at its own game.
We developed xerography. We thought that we were the center of wisdom in the world for xerography, and it was hard for us to believe that looking anywhere else could give us insight into how to do something better than we were doing it ourselves.
The company has mastered the art of checking out its competition with a fine-tooth comb. The Xerox Competitive Products Lab literally takes apart the competition and produces reports on what it finds inside. For Xerox design engineers, competitive benchmarking provides a set of standards by which they can judge their own work. They may find good ideas in the reports of what others are doing, and maybe even ideas they can improve upon.
Competitive benchmarking includes not only seeing how your competitor designs his machine, but determining what it costs him to build it. Here we have fuser assemblies for 3 different small copiers: Canon, Sharp, and Xerox. All 3 have rollers. But you want to see what kind of roller your competition is using and how much he's paying for it.
Understand your competition. Understand everything that they do. Understand how they make their process and their product work. Understand their cost base. Understand exactly how many engineers, as an example, that they would have on a product program during the development phase, and for how long.
If you want to learn about the competition, this is the way to do it.
One row, even right along the side with the drive motor, that you don't have chains and belts and gears distributed throughout the machine.
It's interesting how there's so much new in this machine and that the layout is new, but the technology is somewhere more consistent with the previous models we've seen.
Competitive benchmarking contributed to the design of the Xerox 50 series copiers. These are among the first to be totally developed and manufactured under the company's new philosophy of leadership through quality. That philosophy includes a new kind of relationship with suppliers. One such supplier is Nylamold, which manufactures molded plastic components. Xerox helped Nylamold improve its operation. It then challenged Nylamold to use what it learned to meet tough target prices. Nylamold offered good ideas, some high-tech and some more down-to-earth. When Nylamold's counter is assembled into a cartridge at Xerox, this metal pin is pulled and discarded. Nylamold asked, why not save those and save 3 cents per unit?
A customer and a supplier can work in harmony to both become very competitive.
Xerox trimmed its supplier base from 5,000 down to 300 so it could build a closer relationship with each one. What Nylamold has learned from Xerox helps it serve its other customers too, and some of those may be in competition with Xerox. Xerox supplier quality manager Jim Parker recognizes that.
If they're doing total quality right, they won't do it just for Xerox.
So does it bother you that you can be indirectly aiding your competition?
I don't know that we can afford not to help our suppliers, and that it aids our competition. It's a byproduct that we have to accept.
Other suppliers should understand that if they are not competitive, someone else is going to take their business away from them. And certainly we're very patriotic. We want that business to be here in the United States. And with respect to other suppliers, they have to make the changes that just-in-time manufacturing or total quality required, otherwise they'll lose business. At the same token, if their customers are not competitive, we'll lose the customer, and the customer subsequently means lost business for us. So you have to get into the swing of what's happening in the United States today.
Today, Xerox is back on the road to manufacturing excellence. Manufacturing quality defects have been reduced by more than 50%. This is one of only a few companies that have won back market share after being targeted by the Japanese. And the lesson Xerox learned is that top management has to be vigilant and involved.
We've closed the gap with our competition, and we are regaining market share. But change is a continuum. It's something that must be worked at constantly. We're much more aware of the world that we're in, but we're not aware enough yet. I want to see us focus even more attention on our customers and understand even better what their requirements are, and then build products even better that satisfy those requirements.
Imagine being challenged to redesign a product so that instead of 4 printed circuit boards, you use only 1. Imagine the challenge of reducing the parts count by 37%, cutting your supplier base by 52%, slashing 71% off your manufacturing cycle time, cutting manufacturing costs by 40%, and reducing your labor cost by 33%. But this is no cutback. At the same time, you have to increase volume by 400%. Why would Hewlett-Packard be faced with such a challenge? Because in 1985, sales began to fall. The terminal division seemed terminally ill.
We were competing in a pretty niche HP-only marketplace, and we hadn't invested a lot in making it competitive. We had to get competitive or basically get out of the manufacturing business as far as terminals were concerned.
Hewlett-Packard has enjoyed a long reputation for engineering excellence and top quality. It has not traditionally had the image of a low-cost manufacturer. What's remarkable about the Hewlett-Packard Frontier team, the group that tackled this challenge, is not just that it succeeded in achieving virtually all of its goals with the 700 series of terminals, not just that the terminal division put itself back in business, dramatically increasing unit sales, opening up new markets, and doing it in the United States when so many others have gone offshore to make terminals. What is also remarkable is how it was all done.
The Roseville people's strategy said, we have to be the low-cost producer. Now, how do we do that? And once you give manufacturing and the whole team, I think a focus and a competitive advantage that you got to have, good people will work out the details of how you do it.
Before Hewlett-Packard could build a new kind of terminal, it had to build a new kind of team where design people, operations people, purchasing people, and marketing people all shared perspectives, crossing functional lines that had traditionally kept them apart.
Well, in the early days, it was rather rocky because it was an unfamiliar relationship that we were having with each other.
John Adelsbach was the leader of the Frontier team.
There was a lot of apprehension up front about new roles and ways to get things accomplished. There was particularly a lot of concern by people thinking that they weren't going to succeed. And I think that the teamwork really came into play there. They really started seeing success from other team members. Other people came in with insurmountable problems up front and later on developed some innovative ways of overcoming those. As those team members saw that happening, they themselves thought that they could either get more innovative in the approaches they took to solving problems or take more risk along conventional lines.
Early on, the procurement people and design people on the Frontier team visited suppliers.
They would go in and ask for a specific part that had a functionality without a specific set of specs. So as an example, it might be a printed circuit board. They would ask for what the supplier's lowest cost and highest quality generic process was for building a printed circuit board, and then they would try to adapt those characteristics into our own design.
They found that instead of a computer-grade glass epoxy printed circuit board, they could use a paper-based consumer electronics grade board and save 87 cents on the dollar. Some people may assume that when you buy standard off-the-shelf components rather than custom-made parts, quality may be sacrificed. Hewlett-Packard found just the opposite.
In the case of a manufacturer that makes, let's say, yokes for televisions or yokes for computer terminals, that makes those by the millions, their variability in their process is extremely small. That has a payoff on all kinds of things. It makes their costs very low. It makes the cost to us very low. It makes the quality to our customers very high.
At Hewlett-Packard, new ideas are encouraged, but they are always challenged. That is ingrained in the corporate culture.
For some reason, it was eliminated, and now we want to put it back.
What we'd really like not to have is management by genius or by edict, or a situation where basically there were a lot of people around who were just ready to implement whatever the boss said. It became just usual to have even who we would normally think to be experts, have them be challenged in some way. So that my R&D manager has an idea about how we should design these products, and he can be questioned for a half an hour by the controller, and something good will come out of that.
The innovations that were adopted were not all high-tech. Here, for example, empty plastic housings for terminals are arriving at the beginning of the final assembly line. They arrive boxed individually with packing material. But that is actually an advantage, because this workstation is also the end of the assembly line. An assembled terminal is immediately placed in the empty box with packing material from the next box coming in, and off it goes. This is a continuous loop with no scrap packaging. Hewlett-Packard worked with the supplier of plastic housings to make his packaging double as their packaging. A simple yet clever idea, picked up on the road to manufacturing excellence.
It can be done in America, and the Frontier program is just a very good example. And if you have some of those in a company like HP, it encourages all of our other people, and you find they're all moving faster to achieve that edge.
One measure of the Frontier team's success is that the lowest priced terminal in the new line is $375. The lowest priced terminal in the previous product line was $1,375. And quality, which was already excellent, is even better.
There are people who believe low cost and high quality are mutually exclusive. What do you say to those people?
I think low cost and high quality are synonymous. And the reason I say that is because the way you accomplish low cost is by achieving high quality.
We have briefly illustrated the type of workshop where you can come and network with your peers, from your executives and people in your industry and other industries, and learn what they've done. You can get first-hand knowledge. You can smell and taste and touch, walk through those factories, spend a day and a half there, interact with their employees, and understand better how they have successfully done some unconventional things.
The ideas apply to anything you do. It would apply to a service business, not just manufacturing, and it applies not in the manufacturing function only. It's easier to think about process improvements in manufacturing. It works just as well in how you sell, how you collect your bills, or the rest of it. Processes are everywhere.
We will not go out of the manufacturing business. We may stumble, and I'm not talking about Xerox, I'm talking about American manufacturers. We may stumble, we may exhaust a lot of possible alternatives, we may look for other ways of sourcing our product, but eventually we will understand that we must be a manufacturing business and we must be a manufacturing country if we want to maintain the same kinds of profit and standard of living that this country and these companies in this country have come to enjoy.
Since we're behind, we're going to have to spend more for a short period of time. We're going to have to run faster for a short period of time. And then we're going to have to stop doing things on a project basis. Once we catch up or get a little ahead, we're going to have to adopt the continuing improvement approach, which means every day you get up and do something to try to improve, rather than every 3 years, let's have our next big capital spending drive.
You're optimistic about American manufacturing competing on a world basis.
I'm enthusiastic about it. I have come to a level of enthusiasm as of today that is far above what my enthusiasm was just a couple of years ago.
It's not for the faint-hearted. You have to make a real commitment. It's not the kind of thing you write a memo, hey, we got to worry about quality this week, and how about productivity? This is a total cultural commitment that you've got to expect to be 5 to 10 years long.
Zero defects. Competitive benchmarking. Design for manufacturability. Early supplier involvement. Focused factory design. Crossing functional lines and trusting the commitment of the American worker. These are some of the signposts on the road to manufacturing excellence. And you don't even need a passport. I'm Howard Fox for AME, the Association for Manufacturing Excellence. So what's the bottom line on AME?
It all comes down to people that are motivated to win.